Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Wade Watches. I'm Wade, and today I'm finally going to be getting out my review of The Flash, directed by Andreas Muschietti. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And starring Ezra Miller, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, Sasha Calle, Kiersey Clemens, and Michael Shannon. So, getting right into it, the plot of this movie, as I'm sure everyone's aware of by now, is nothing new or original, especially in terms of the comic book superhero genre. All those movies come out in the past couple of years. It definitely warrants comparisons to Spider-Man: No Way Home, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which are still in theaters, Avengers: Endgame, X-Men: Days of Future Past, Multiverse of Madness, Loki, etc., etc. You get the point. We have ourselves yet again another comic book superhero movie involving both the multiverse as well as time travel, and that's totally fine. I'm not gonna take down points for it telling another movie coming out and telling a familiar tale. I just ask that it's told in an enjoyable way is all. And was this told in an enjoyable way? Kind of. Let's start with the positive. Let's start with the optimistic. So, main thing that has to work in this movie does work, which is Ezra Miller as Barry Allen slash the Flash. I felt that in the past, both versions of the Justice League, basically, Zack Snyder's Justice League and the Justice League. He was more or less the comedic relief character. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is 4 hours long, he was given more to do, but he was still kind of, the comedic character. And so I'm happy that here we finally get to see quite literally also, if you know what happens. I'm trying to be vague as I always am. Here we get to see very different sides of him, and I felt like he perfectly displayed like all the range that he needed to capture, because there are moments in this movie that are actually quite sad and heartfelt. And I almost there's one scene in particular involving kind of the main emotional quest that kind of kicks off everything that happens in this movie, where I almost teared up. Hats off to Ezra Miller as this version of the Flash. He kills it in this movie. I felt that he did a great job. Also, another thing that quite enjoyed in this movie was seeing two different versions of Batman in this movie. And I know I'm trying to keep things vague, but we all know that Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck are in this movie. They're in all the posters and in all the trailers and advertising, to the point where it's been speculated that due to all the in real life controversies, they've kind of leaned on into advertising those two to try and get people in the theaters. I will say, first and foremost, one thing to clarify is that for me personally, Keaton has never been my absolute favorite Batman. I know that's a big controversy, who wore the cape and cowl the best, and there are some people who say Batman '89 is the greatest Batman. I'm not one of those people. For my money, I'm more of a Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson guy, and kind of a Ben Affleck guy. Those are kind of my three favorite cinematic Batmen, but I will say that seeing Keaton return, that original Batman '89 back on the big screen after all these years, though I wasn't even born when the first one came out. You guys know what I mean. Was quite enjoyable. I thought Michael Keaton pulled off what he was able to pull off of what he was given in this movie. He's not the central focus. He doesn't steal the whole movie away. This is not a Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield situation like there is in Spider-Man: No Way Home. This is still very much the Flash's story, and I appreciate that. I appreciate it not becoming, I appreciate Batman not hijacking someone's movie and making it, an unofficial sequel to Batman '89. That's not what happens here. I'm thankful for that. And though I'm not, again, Keaton isn't my favorite, I thought he was good in this movie. And same goes for Ben Affleck as well. He's in it very briefly. He again, so definitely not a show stealer, but it was awesome seeing him back as well. So that those are some things that work. What else? Action sequences are decent, though the CGI is a bit wonky. That's really something going that's been going on a lot lately in these big budget blockbusters that have over $100 million. That's pretty small for a blockbuster these days. But I don't know, man. I guess I don't know. I'm not a CG a computer effects artist, so I don't know. But it's kind of janky in this movie. Point being, especially during the Speed Force running sequences, it looks very off, and it was actually quite distracting parts. But I still enjoyed those running sequences and fight sequences, so that's something that worked. Um, Anything else? That's about it, to be honest. Oh, seeing Michael Shannon back as Zod was okay. I thought he was, a decent villain in Man of Steel. Not nothing exceptional in terms of comic book superhero supervillains, but it was neat seeing him back and seeing the him and his Kryptonians back as kind of like a big threat. I enjoyed it. But other than that, the big issue that plagues this movie is that though everything that happens in this movie in regards to like time travel and the multiverse stems back to one main motivation that Barry Allen has something personal to do with his past, it feels like there's like five different movies in one movie. This, like I said in my out of theater reaction, if any of you watched that, this movie perfectly captures the essence of its titular character, kind of ADHD, manic, all over the place, and that can kind of become the thing when you deal with big multiverse epic 2.5 hour movies such as this one. And I'm going to compare it to Spider-Man No Way Home, which also has a lot going on in that movie. But the story just felt, the writing felt tighter and neater, and it felt like, the story felt more like a linear progression. Like all the things that happen in No Way Home, kind of stem off of what happens previously. Whereas here, um, from scene change to scene change, it almost feels like a different movie. At times, it's kind of like a buddy comedy, like a really goofy buddy comedy with like physical humor. And then next scene, it's a really serious, dark and gritty drama, and it just feels uneven in this movie, more so than any of the movies I mentioned that also involve superheroes in the multiverse and whatnot. And that's just how I felt watching it, and that's kind of a bummer, man, because I felt like they really could have had something special here. I felt like this could have been the DCEU's chance to go out on a high note because, as we all know, we're in the last days of the DCEU as it was originally envisioned. We're kind of getting the table scraps of that remaining universe before James Gunn takes it over. Um, and having felt, because that initial hype at all of the screenings and press screenings saying that this is one of the greatest comic book movies ever, I was expecting a lot more. But then again, that's why you shouldn't buy into the hype. And I always go into movies making up my own mind. But what got me excited for this movie was the trailers. The trailers looked badass. It looked like it was going to be a pretty solid parallel dimension story. But fact of the matter, it just feels really, really uneven and all over the place. And I don't, the writing is just not fully there to make me feel like I'm watching one consistent story. It just really isn't. But that being said, like I just mentioned, I just listed off a bunch of stuff that really does work in this movie and is quite enjoyable. So, wrapping it all up, I'm going to give The Flash a 6 out of 10. It's good, not great, but certainly not hot garbage either. It's, 6 is, decent. It's not super high, but it's still decent. So, again, 6 out of 10 for The Flash 2023. This has been another edition of Wade Watches, and I will see you all next time. Peace.